The Boyle family was recently rescued from their Taliban captors. In the aftermath, there are still more questions than there are answers, but don't expect those in the mainstream media to ask the really tough queries. Well, it's been more than a week now since we learned about the plight of Canadian Joshua Boyle and his American wife, Caitlin Coleman. Now, as the story goes, Boyle took his very pregnant wife for a backpacking trip to Afghanistan 5 years ago. Hey, why not? Even though Caitlin was in her third trimester, who wouldn't want to go to one of the most upside-down, gunned-up regimes in the world in order to tiptoe through the tulips? What could possibly go wrong? Well, you could get kidnapped by the Taliban, which is allegedly what happened. While captive, Caitlin's child perished. The couple say the child died due to a forced abortion, but the Taliban, which apparently now operates an OBGYN division, claims the death was due to a miscarriage. In any event, who knew that the terrorists who comprised the Taliban were such compassionate captors? That's because they allowed Joshua and Caitlin to have conjugal visits, all of which facilitated the opportunity for the couple to have three children while in captivity. And hey, why not? Joshua told the Associated Press that he and his wife always wanted to have lots of kids, and just because they were prisoners in a very nasty regime, well, that little hiccup wasn't going to derail those Brady Bunch plans. Said Joshua about starting his dream family, quote, "We're sitting as hostages with a lot of time on our hands. We always wanted as many kids as possible, and we didn't want to waste time. Kate's in her 30s, the clock is ticking," end quote. Well, for the sake of argument, let's assume he's talking about Kate's biological clock ticking and not something slightly more nefarious. Now, later on, their captors eventually moved the family into Pakistan, and at the insistence of the U.S. government, the Pakistani military was convinced to conduct a raid to rescue the family, which they did. And they all lived happily ever after, right? Well, in the aftermath, so many things just don't add up. And the mainstream media doesn't appear to want to do any investigative journalism on this issue for fear of coming across as being, oh, I don't know, culturally insensitive. Well, thank goodness for Tariq Fatah, who's never been beholden to the tyranny of political correctness. In a recent Toronto Sun column about the Boyle incident, Fatah notes that, quote, "One problem is that non-Muslim journalists today are so scared of being labeled racist that obvious questions arising from Boyle's account of his and his family's captivity aren't being asked," end quote. Two things strike Fatah as being downright weird about this story. First was the rapid modification in Boyle's appearance. Boyle's new beard, in particular, was of note, as it's, quote, "a trademark of devout Muslims and even political Islamists." As well, Boyle describes himself as a pilgrim. Fatah notes this reference was missed by most journalists, who apparently don't know that most Muslim places of pilgrimage are in Saudi Arabia, Turkey, Iran, and India, not the valleys of Afghanistan's Wardak province. Finally, Boyle says he went to Wardak province with a sense of mission and to help people fix things. Fix things? What things? Well, he wouldn't elaborate. Now, oddly, Caitlin, Boyle's wife, demonstrated a characteristic one would expect of a Muslim woman living under the Taliban rule, which is to say, Joshua did all the talking while she kept her mouth shut. Thankfully, she was allowed to ditch her black burqa for a stylized Egyptian hijab, though. And how's this nugget for a not-so-insignificant epilogue to the story? Joshua was once briefly married to Zainab Khader. Yes, that Zainab, the sister of former terrorist and current multimillionaire Omar Khader. And during their marriage, when Zainab said that the 9/11 terror attacks were justified, Joshua was quick to defend her remarks. Wow, makes you wonder if Joshua even wanted to be rescued in the first place. By the way, his brief marriage to Zainab is being dismissed by Joshua's apologists as a mere coincidence. I say if you believe that whopper, then I have a bridge I can sell you real cheap that's located in a certain New York borough. Bottom line, when it comes to this kidnapping caper, I smell a rat of Godzilla-sized proportions. I don't know what the real story is. I don't know if anyone knows the real story, but it might help things come to light if only the politically correct sheep in the mainstream media at least started asking the right, albeit tough, questions. For the Rebel.Media, I'm David the Menzoid Menzies. Hey folks, we have an all-new fall lineup. Please visit therebel.media/shows and check it out.